Hey everyone, my name is Eduardo, and I'm joined by my good friend Dominic St. Clair. Dom, you want to say hi?
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
Yeah, he's from Dominic St. Clair Studios, right? Is that what your YouTube channel is called?
Yeah, that's my YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, he's back again to talk about episode 5 of The Last of Us, and Endure and Survive. As always, we're going to start off just kind of summarizing the episode, and then towards the end, we're going to get into some parts, potential spoilers. For the future of the show and for the games as well. So if you haven't played part 1 and 2, definitely don't watch past that part. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and talk about today's absolute like it's just like one of the I don't know about you, Dom, but like the Bill and Frank thing, right? Like them, their story how it was handled completely had me at the edge of my fucking like had me at the edge of my seat here. Watching Sam and Henry, was it the same effect for you?
yeah. It was with Sam Henry. It was definitely a tense, like suspenseful situation going on.
Yeah,
With these two characters, because obviously they're getting caught up with Joel and Ellie's story. They intertwine,
yeah,
and they're going to just do some shit, at the same time. So, everything's building up, and you're really trying to uh hope for the best for all four of those characters.
yeah.
And so yeah, that's pretty much what this episode's really about for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Like honestly, for me, like well, maybe that's something we should say for a little bit later once we get into the spoiler stuff. But yeah, as someone who played the original game, without getting into specifics here, I you know I was well again, let's just actually save that for the later sections. What did you think of the episode overall, Dom?
I enjoyed it. It was a good, like, tense, like suspensive, I don't know, suspense builder for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah,
So we get, the four characters intertwine, and they're trying to just, get out, right? As
yeah,
they were planning last episode. So, um, yeah, they're just trying to leave and trying to find a way out. And
yeah.
in order to do that, they got to go through dangerous obstacles.
Well, yeah,
So,
we'll get to the plot breakdown later. What did
yeah, yeah.
you think of the overall? Yeah, you thought it was suspenseful and all that. I agree. I thought it was I thought this episode had a little bit of everything actually, if you ask me. Like it had a lot of like really tense, like dark shit going on, and it also kind of had the more wholesome like Sam and Henry story. I liked how when it was like Joel and when the four were together, like going through that journey with them. First of all, a ton of fan service, like an insane amount of fan service this episode. But yeah, like going through this one, um, kind of had me so like Lindsay. I literally had the entire fucking like I was holding my breath the entire episode because of like knowing what this show is doing with the adaptation and knowing what happens in the game. Just like those two things balancing out in my head, like was super fucking thrilling to me in a way that I haven't felt in quite a while, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way. Like, I felt a way where, I knew what was gonna happen. We all
Yeah,
knew it was gonna happen, but we still were on the edge of our seats because, we're kind of reliving that moment or these
yeah,
moments. So, but it's more about live action instead of video game format for sure.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, overall, I mean, if you ask me, this is the most action-packed, sort of like almost like a heist sort of story in the middle. And yeah, if you ask me, like literally, it had everything. It had intensity, it had heart, it had action, and it had a good heaping fucking serving of tragedy at the end of it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, let's go ahead and break the episode down a little bit. We start off in a very dark place. Actually, we start off with the reintroduction of Kathleen, and this is actually takes place the night of the revolution, which we learned was 11 days prior to the previous episode. Kathleen and her group have overtaken Fedra and are in control of the city. And as it usually is for these kinds of like fucked up situations, the new leader, the new leadership, and all that are fucking just as big of monsters as Fedra. One of the things about The Last of Us, the universe of The Last of Us, that I really liked and that I feel this episode brought out was that there really are no good people or bad people in this world. How do you feel about like the first segment where we're just kind of following Kathleen on the first night of her being in charge of Kansas City?
Yeah, so Kathleen, she started a big revolution against Fedra, and we see everyone riding in the streets, and they have tanks rolling by and all that, and they're just taking over. And Kathleen is succeeding at it, which we all know she does. The way she was handling it was very leadership like, and very like she's definitely got the leader type of vibe to her, where she's able to sort of control these people into doing what she wants them to do for the revolution. And um but yeah, she's definitely brutal, man, and um definitely shows off her leadership skills, when it comes to her posse and her whole army, if you want to say,
No, definitely. I thought, frankly, I when the episode started off, I hated Kathleen right away. Absolutely hated Kathleen. And this is something that The Last of Us does really well, right? Like it'll introduce you to. And by the way, I really feel like this episode and this last episode definitely felt the most like The Last of Us Part Two. But we'll get to that a little more in detail later. But one of the things that Part Two does is that it introduces you to a character in a way that makes you hate them, and then as the game goes on, you learn to empathize with that character, empathize with that character. I'm sorry. And this episode kind of reminded me of that. We start off with Kathleen being this cold-blooded um, fascist, a violent dictator, fascist type, and just mowing down innocent people. But what I really liked about this episode was by the end, I mean, for me, just like The Last of Us 2, I didn't like her. I didn't like her. I didn't like spending time with her, but I understood her, and I felt bad for her, even though I wasn't on her side still by the end.
Mm. Yeah, that's the thing, right? In the Last of Us universe, like you said, there's no good guys, there's no bad guys. It's just people.
Yeah.
You know, we're all humans, and we're all make mistakes. We all do things. We see certain things in a different way, and whether that's good or bad, the way we see it is either good, and the other people see it as bad. That's just The Last of Us. It's everyone has their own interpretations on life, and their goals and their perception of like how life should work in this universe.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's not just so much that, but like everybody in the world of The Last of Us, the games and in the show as well, everybody is so desperate to hold on to what makes them human. And I think really um that's sort of the main theme of I think both of them, right? Is that sort of need to desperately cling on to the things that give us meaning and purpose, and just how far we're willing to go to hold on to that. And there's definitely things we'll probably touch on later, like dialogue, and moments that are not just foreshadowing the future of the show, but are, like definitely exploring the well, how should I say it without with saying too much? Like definitely exploring that central theme of what the point of even existing is, and how we define that for ourselves. But yeah, I really thought the opening sequence was effective as shit, man. Like honestly, like what I really enjoyed about this segment, it was actually like the set design, right? Because you see all these horrible things happening outside, and it looks chaotic, and the camera work is all fucked up. But then you cut indoors, right? And you see there's blood all over the walls and shit, and bullet holes everywhere. And like it really makes the sense of dread inescapable because horrible things are happening outside, and we're watching this sequence that takes place inside, knowing that it's not going to be any better, and it makes Kathleen scary to me. You know?
Mhm. Yeah, I think like not escaping the nightmare makes it more, uh, horrifying. I guess you can say like it's more horrifying because it's like you can't escape the
Yeah.
nightmare. It's like you are trying to escape, but just because you open that next door doesn't mean that you're out yet. It's like an infinite loop in a way. Like
Yeah.
when you're going through, like when I mean, in the city wise, like there's no safe place in the city.
Hmm. What do you think of Melanie Linsky's performance here as Kathleen in this episode and in the last one?
I think she did a pretty good job as like a dictator, type villain. Um,
Yeah.
and I think I I honestly I did empathize with her throughout the last episode and this episode.
Uh huh.
The whole time because I understand where she's coming from as a person when she lost her. Can I say it? She
Oh
lost
yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, everybody, if they're watching
Okay,
this, they've seen the
at this
episode.
point, right?
Mhm.
You know, so yeah, at this point, yeah, she lost her brother. She is because she lost her brother due to people turning on her and the rest of the community for Fedra,
Yeah.
and so that's the thing. That's why she's doing this because not only Fedra are pieces of shit, but her half of her community are pieces of shit because they turned to Fedra and betrayed their own community. So, and that leads to her brother's death, and we'll get to that later, right? Of how he ends up getting killed or whatever. Um, so yeah, that's doesn't that totally understand, especially like yeah, you have a sibling, and you're really close
Hmm.
with your sibling from the beginning to the end. So I can understand her pain and her motive for sure.
Yeah, not just that, but maybe we're going a little ahead here, but we also find out that her mother is still alive. So like when you think about over 23 years, that family has been able to survive, to endure, to
Yeah.
survive and endure, like the title of the episode. So yeah, I really I get it, dude. Like imagine everybody around you has lost their friends, lost their family, lost everything, but you're one of the lucky people who at least still has like your mother and your sibling, and you guys are all together still. Yeah, I'd imagine, especially in this world, that has to mean the world to you because again, the entire thematic framework of the series is how we define ourselves, and what makes us human and what makes us care. And yeah, like I thought that was heartbreaking to know that like Kathleen, to me, is a much more tragic character, still having her mother there because at least everybody else can move on, and her, like, every time she sees her mother, she's gonna remember like my brother's supposed to be here too because he was here all along. And yeah, I get Kathleen. Like I said, kind of like the similar character in The Last of Us Part Two, though. Like I get her, I just still really don't care for her by the end of it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, but by the definitely like at a certain point, I was like, okay, you got to go.
Yeah,
So I was
I
just
agree.
like, yeah. So I'm not saying that I was always empathizing. So, yeah, I empathized throughout the majority of the two episodes, but by towards the end, I just don't. Yeah, I didn't anymore because we had our other characters that we also care about that we've been sticking with through the whole season, and also like two episodes that we actually generally like. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my opinion on her.
Right, yeah. So after the horrifyingly intense scene with Kathleen taking over Kansas City on that first night, we catch up with Sam and Henry, and we get sort of the first, and I think major but meaningful and major change in my opinion. In the episode, and that's that Sam is mute. He or is he deaf?
He's deaf.
He's deaf. Okay, so he was deaf. So yeah, he had to. He could only communicate in sign language, which Actually, in a situation like that where they're trying to hide out and like be quiet, it seems to have helped out a lot. I thought that was a very interesting change. What did you think about that, Dom?
Yeah, it's an interesting change, and I think like this episode, but like this series has been doing so far is they've been changing up some things to add a little nuance and add something new to the whole episodes from this series, because in the game, we all know what happens in the game and how exactly it plays out, whereas in this season, in this series so far, we know we don't really know we know how it's going to play out, but they don't follow the certain type of pattern that the game has followed. So for example, like we mentioned, uh, Sam is deaf. He wasn't deaf in the game,
Mm-hmm.
so he was talking all he want, whereas in the show he's deaf, so he's doing sign language with Henry, who also does sign language to help communicate with both himself and Sam. So I
Yeah.
thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah, and I mean not just that, but I think for me as the audience member, like having a kid in this situation is bad enough, right? Like just seeing a kid have to go through what Sam is going through in this episode. That's pretty bad. By the way, say hi in the comments and if you're watching. We definitely want to hear from you as we're discussing the episode. But yeah, like for me, making Sam deaf was an interesting touch because like I said, just having any kid go through what Sam goes through in this episode is pretty horrifying and scary to witness. I really honestly like I feel like the show handled the Sam and Henry story a lot better than the game, in my opinion, because like I feel like in the game we don't get to know Sam and Henry enough, and getting to spend time with them, seeing their dynamic together, but also seeing just how absolutely dependent Sam is on Henry to survive. Um, it just really made me sort of my it made me like care more about them because um even though like a kid deaf or me whatever, it's not good time in the situation, a kid that helpless who also seems to just kind of like charm every like Joel and Ellie and like grow have a bond with Ellie especially. Yeah, like that was it made everything so much more intense for me because I really more so in the game did not want anything to happen to either of these guys, but especially Sam.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like I was even more attached to, like, it was more caring for Sam because he did feel more helpless than he did in the game. In the game, he just felt like, I'm pretty sure he was just like more like cocky or something like that. He was
A little
more,
bit.
he was definitely more like on it, like he can definitely stand on his own a bit. But in this show so far, he definitely needed Henry, or yeah, he definitely needed Henry because Henry was the only one that can care for him and he knows him so well that he knows how Sam operates and how he works. So, and nobody else will understand.
Yeah. No, and there's and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like in the game, there is no Super Sam, is there? Like there is nothing about him drawing this superhero version of himself. Did I miss that or is that original to the
uh uh no, I don't recall. Definitely not the face paint. I don't
yeah,
remember the
not the
face
face
paint.
for sure. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
know for sure not the face paint, but I think the Super Sam thing is definitely a creation of the show. And I kind of like it's a little like on the cheesy side, but I think the show like earns it. Like sometimes shows earn having like a little bit of a flaw and stuff like that. And I think having him feel braver when he sees himself as a superhero was it was kid logic, and I just thought that really kind of like it's just one of those things, right? That like just knowing that little extra bit more that Sam views like wants to be a hero, that he views himself when he gets, because he draws himself taller as a superhero. He wants to be like invulnerable and he wants to like save people, but he's this helpless kid. So just like the little orange on the face and all that just it it made Sam just so much more of a real person to me. And yeah, like dude, honestly, like ask Lindsay, I was literally like this the whole time because the dread of knowing how the game plays this out, and like I don't know if you guys heard her, but she said I was stressing her out because of how stressed out I was getting. But like, yeah, like when all that was happening, like all I could think in my head is I don't want to see this kid die, man. Like all I thought was like, I don't want to see this kid die, which is, you know, well, okay, well, I just want to say this now, okay? It's not going to be too much of a spoiler, but the fact that Frank and Bill survived episode 3, you know, and that's not how it played out in the game at all. Or I'm sorry, that they both died at the end of episode 3 made me thought, okay, so we had a change that left one of our favorite characters from the game dead in the show. Maybe this time, Sam and Henry, or just Sam, or whatever. Maybe one of them or both of them will survive. And like the whole time, that was like the big war in my head, dude. I was like, please, man, please let the kid live. Like, at least let the kid live, dude. But like, you know, as anybody who's watching this now knows, unfortunately, this was one of those subversive things that did stay true to the game, and was so much more heartbreaking in my opinion. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, did Frank and Bill being alive, like, did that fuck with your expectations at all watching it?
Yeah, it was I didn't expect that to happen, like both of them to end up dead at the end of the episode. It was heartbreaking as well, like that whole like the end of Bill and Frank.
Yeah,
That whole thing, the whole storyline and how it ended and how we find out Bill and Frank and Bill died
yeah,
is sad. Surprising but also sad. Um, Here it's sad. It's even more sadder, you know,
yeah.
because we're dealing with you know, like young people over here, especially Sam, who's just the youngest, right? And
Mhm.
he's, you can see like we were just saying, he was more like a helpless character who wants to be someone bigger, but he can't,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
But yeah, it was more sadder here, man, because we all know how it's gonna end up. We just, and like you were saying, we didn't know like if they were gonna flip a switch on us, but they didn't, man. They stayed true to what the original intended. So yeah, I just man, this world, man, is brutal.
Mhm.
The world doesn't care about killing young people, especially kids. Like they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, Kathleen at the end of the episode just says little kids die all the time. They die all the time. And like, God, and it's sad. It's sad. It's probably true. Like, yeah, it's probably very true that kids don't survive in a world like this. And it is an unforgiving world. You know, they're definitely playing on grounded difficulty. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no. So afterward, we meet Dr. Edelstein. We met him in the last episode, but we actually get to spend some more personal time with him, and we get a little more backstory. But mainly, he's just kind of there to mark time, because we go into that attic and we stay there for about 10 days. We don't see the 10 days, right? But we cut to 10 days later, and then we know what's happening to him, and we kind of see that Sam and Henry are in a dire situation. They're out of food. They need to go out to the city. And Sam and Henry are afraid to go, even though Henry has been looking at the patterns at any chance it could be caught by Kathleen's people. But just as they're leaving, the four characters converge, and we see the convenience store sequence play out from the point of view of Sam and Henry, who just coincidentally happened to be across the street. Yeah, and then that's when we get Sam and Henry be like, okay, change of plans. And we catch up with the end of the last episode where at night they go to the hotel that Joel and Ellie are sleeping in, and they catch up and say, yeah, and essentially hold them hostage with unloaded guns, where they eventually learn to trust each other. And yeah, what did you think of that of their initial meeting and all that, Dom?
Yeah, I like how it does do a flashback, but it wasn't too long.
Yeah.
You know, like the last one was long, like really long. It took up the whole episode, but I was okay with it. Uh, but I honestly didn't want to see another long flashback. So
Same.
when I saw the flashback with Henry and Sam, I thought it was gonna be long, but it wasn't. It was actually pretty quick,
Yeah.
which is cool. But I thought it was a quick. I think it was a good flashback to get to know the characters a little bit. But yeah, how they ended up was interesting. I like the whole. They were there when the convenience store was getting shot up. And then it immediately cuts to like when they actually meet. I thought that was a cool cut to that because I
Mhm.
don't think we need to see how
Yeah, how they got.
how they got there because it's
Yeah.
like what does that matter at this point? Even though we got enough flashback of Sam and Henry already, but yeah, I like how it was introduced. You know what I'm saying? Like Joel, like is that type of guy who's like you know, fuck these people, this and that, and like I'm gonna kill him. That type of mode, when he gets guns pointing at him. But I
Yeah.
like how Joel was like, listening to him and be like, okay, this might not be the time for this, that type of deal. And
Yeah.
then, like I said, like they end up working together and they figure out a plan how to get out of the city. And I thought that was a cool meetup.
Well, the thing is that the first thing that Joel sees is the little kid pointing a gun at him, and then he sees Henry. And so like, and then what I think too is that like the way that the actor who played Henry plays that scene, he seems like he's struggling to be confident, and I think like seeing Henry, if Henry had been a more legitimately threatening person, with like a different like body language and stuff like that, like if he had done this several times, I think Joel, or maybe if he didn't see the kid right in front of him, Joel probably would have killed him like right away. But I think having seen the kid and then having seen that Henry is like visibly nervous, I think that's what essentially disarmed him. And honestly, like I'm glad you touched on the fact that like it really cuts through a lot of bullshit because like on last week's stream, the one big concern I had was like is this show like is there enough episodes to tell the story of the first game? That was my biggest concern, right? But like last week's episode felt like an episode of TV. This feels like a movie. Like it just cuts through shit. Like every scene is packed with so much like subtext and nuance and layers that like even though it might be a simple scene of Joel and Sam holding or Sam and Henry holding up Joel and Ellie, the acting, the writing, the blocking, all of it tells a much more nuanced story than you usually get in the TV show. And I think that really helps the pacing, especially in this episode. But like one thing that I really enjoyed was that as soon as Sam and Henry like let Joel and Ellie get up, Henry mistakenly says like, that's your dad's a real asshole or whatever, and they both say, fucking Joel says, "I'm not her father," and Ellie says, "He's not my father" at the exact same time. Did you catch that?
Yeah,
What do
it
you?
was funny. Yeah, I thought it was a funny moment because it's like, that was the whole gimmick, right? Oh, like they're not father and daughter, obviously, but then every time they run into people, like, oh, is that your daughter? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, it's not my daughter. No, he's not my father. Yeah, I like that. That was a cool, like, funny moment. Uh,
Well, it's not the only funny moment either. Like this scene has like the only like moments of levity in the episode that's otherwise really intense because when Sam and Henry are trying to decide whether or not to let him up, like Joel keeps delivering everything in this tone, where the guy's like, "Man, I was gonna let you up till you said it like that," and Ellie's like, "No, he's just like that. He talks like an asshole." That was funny, man. That was a good line.
yeah. Yeah, like yeah, she says that, and then Henry's like, okay, then he like goes, he talks back to Joel and says, okay, this time you say it like the right way, and then Joel says it the same exact way, just
Exactly.
to he doubled down on it. That was funny. Yeah, I agree. That was a funny one, funny moment.
That was a great moment. And then we cut to all of them sitting around the lamp and eating some stale jerky, probably at this point. But what I noticed, was that as we know as game players, Joel has a soft spot for kids. Even though the first episode like ends with him carelessly like throwing a kid into the fire, a kid's body into the fire, like deep down inside. And I think having Ellie there is bringing this back up to the surface. Like he really cares about kids, right? Like in the last episode, he tells Joel like, "Hey, you shouldn't have to put up with this. You're just a kid." And what I thought was interesting is that like you see Sam and Henry like just like eating because they haven't eaten like in a day, so they're like fucking munching it down. And then Joel just like looks at a little Sam and gives him another piece of food. And I thought that was a very good character building moment for me. What do you did you pick up on that? Like, how did you feel about that moment?
Yeah, the when he gives him extra, beef, uh, that was a cute scene, cute moment because it shows Joel's like you said his care for young kids, but it also shows more of his humanity
Yeah,
towards kids and how like he feels like these kids need to be treated more right and treated more not harmfully, but
kids.
unharmfully, just like yeah, like regular what we do on a daily basis,
Yeah,
so but in this world, the kids, they don't go through that simple
innocent.
normal life. They go through the shitty life.
Yeah,
They're all going to go through it. Yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely. So then we have this night with all the four of them together, and Joel says, "Hey man, like I didn't kill you, you you didn't kill me, and I gave you food. Let's just call this a win and go our separate ways." Where and then we kind of get the first act of a heist film where essentially Henry and Sam say, "Hey, we can get you a way out. We can get you a way out, but we need you to fucking protect us on the way." And we get this very this is gonna be fun to talk about. Very cool plan to essentially hide out in the tunnels underground of Kansas City and escape Kathleen's army through there. We even have like a nice little and I love that they did this, by the way. I love that they did this visually, right? Where they had Sam or Henry draw out like the town, show that they're trapped in, not just say, okay, we're gonna go underground and all that, but like he even went through the trouble of like drawing a river with the bridge over it, right? So that visually, people who don't know the game see like have it in their head. Okay, they need to get to a bridge to make it to safety, which is something that we know and from playing the game, but TV audiences probably don't. But even for us, I think it gave us like a false sense of security once they finally reached the bridge, right? Because the show said once you get past the bridge, everything is okay. So we think they passed the bridge and everything is going to be okay. And then, of course, the ending played out. But yeah, did you think that was? Did you think like they were doing? They like were playing all that? Do you think they played all that well in the episode?
Yeah, I think for TV audiences, yeah. I think they, but for game audiences, I think no, maybe because like I said, like they did different things in the show, so maybe even the game audience like, oh shit, what's gonna happen because they changed something. So I would say maybe with the gaming audience, but definitely for the TV audience, and I think for normal like moviegoers, TV show like watcher, like I think those people were like know enough about situations like this was like when people say, "Oh, everything's okay," like it's not okay.
Right, right.
That's the trope, right? Like everything's not okay when someone says everything's okay.
People,
So
yeah, yeah, no, but that's what the show does so well, though, is that like,
yeah,
um, yeah, probably the TV audience thought like maybe something was up, but I think me as who's been watching this and like seeing how they're fucking with my expectations as a game player, like I really like I think it fucked with me the most, right? Because I thought, okay, again, Bill and Frank died, so like maybe they're gonna make it to safety and maybe it's gonna be okay after all. Oh God, I hope so, like
mhm.
something like that. So I really enjoyed overall how this episode specifically played with my audience, my expectations as a game player. And I just really liked how just visually showing like Henry's plan made me like so much more invested in like all the events unfolding as they do, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely cool, like we just mentioned, the map drawing and like showing the bridge and all that. So like it gives us, as like people who play the games, know like, oh, okay, this is how it plays out in the game. We all know that. But for a TV audience, they get to know that on the spot, on the during that scene. So I thought that was a cool touch. I think that was a good setup. Also, when we get to the part where everyone's saying, "Oh, everything's fine," you know what's interesting? It goes on for a while. Everything was fine. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Because when someone starts saying everything's fine, all that, it'll take like a minute or two until something goes wrong. But it actually took a good while till something went wrong,
I
which I,
agree. Yeah, I
which
agree, man. And that's what like I 100% agree, and that's why I really feel like I got played because like I kept waiting, dude. Like this is The Last of Us. Like there are no like simple happy endings in The Last of Us, you know? Like so yeah, the fact that let's move ahead a little bit here. We go from that to them going into the tunnels, and it's all like it's shot like horror movie style and shit with the horror lighting and all this darkness and all this shit, right? And then like you get to um yeah, and then you get to like a huge fan service moment for all of us, right? Where they go to the underground settlement with all the drawings on the wall and you see all the water tanks like they had in the game. Do you remember that?
yeah, the water tanks, the drawings, the chalkboard, just like school like type shit as well, because it's underground, like, community, I guess you
Mm-hmm.
can say, and they were teaching from underground and all that. So like, yeah, it definitely had stuff from the game, like Easter eggs as well,
Ish. Yeah, the
which I
drawing of Ish and the other guy. That was like, holy shit, they got Ish in here.
yeah. Yeah, they got itch and all that. Yeah, it's definitely a cool fan service for the game players for sure.
Yeah, 100%, dude. That whole sequence was just fan service. And the thing was, man, is that like just like you said, I think they're totally fucking with us as game. Or at least I feel like I got fucked with as a game player because you hear like Joel and Sam or I'm sorry, Ellie and Sam are playing and being loud and rambunctious, and from playing the game, I'm like, yo, there's clickers there. You just can't see them yet. Like
Hmm.
as soon as Joel has to go turn on that generator, they're gonna come running out.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for all that to play out, but no, like you said, this episode does a really good job of, especially the game players, making us like giving us a false sense of security because in the game it's a lot more action packed, of course. But what I really liked was, this is a very fast paced episode, but the dialogue is very impactful in this because then we get the reveal of why Henry is on the run, and that's essentially that he was part of the same revolutionary army as Kathleen when Kathleen's brother, who was an incredible human being, apparently a beloved person, when he was in charge of the revolutionary Kansas City people. But then, in order to save his little brother who was dying from leukemia, he had to give up that beloved brother of Kathleen, which is now why we understand why Kathleen is out for blood when it comes to Henry. Um, yeah, like then we understand that, and we get like probably one of the most impactful moments to me in the episode where, like Henry calls himself the bad guy for doing this one bad thing, and he's saying this to Joel, who by this point the audience understands, the TV audience that we've known for a long time has done a lot of horrible things in his life to innocent people. And I think like Pedro Pascal's acting, his quiet acting, and his reaction to Henry feeling all this guilt for like the one bad thing he done, compared to how like little like Joel feels about all the horrible things he's done. Like I thought that was just a fantastic moment, just like a little brief moment of character building for me. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because like you know after Henry spills the deal, and then he asks him like, uh, "Did I do what I do was right or what I did was wrong?" And he's like, "Be real." And Joel was just sitting there quietly, just looking at him, and he's just like, "Fuck." Like
Yeah,
I can't say anything because it. I feel like in my interpretation of it is like if I say he's a bad guy or good guy, whatever, like for what he done, it makes me a hypocrite because I done a
yeah,
lot of shit. Like I kill innocent
yeah,
people and bad people, so I can't say shit.
yeah. And I think a part of me, like I'm not just. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's just a part. I think a part of Joel, right? Like, who did lose his daughter, who lost someone who he loved so much so early in this. He looks at someone that like Henry, who has managed to keep his little brother, who is deaf, alive throughout all this, and who has done who did one horrible like bad thing, but it was the one bad thing that he did, and he was able to keep his humanity, his brother's humanity, keep him alive and all that. Where in direct contrast to Joel, like Joel was not able to save his daughter. Joel lost his daughter on the very first night of the outbreak, and he lost his humanity forever after that. And I don't and I think at this point, it's safe to say that he's given up on ever getting it back. So I think like looking at Henry, who is still so uh maybe I guess innocent, maybe I don't feel like innocent's the right word, right? Like he still has enough humanity within him to feel bad about the one bad thing he did, compared to Joel, who has lost so much of his humanity and has no problem doing terrible things if need be. And I think ultimately, like, yeah, that's the big response. And what I like about that moment a lot was like just recognizing that was enough for Joel to be like, well, that's it, we got to get going now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point too. Yeah, I was just starting to think about that too. Like, it can also mean like Joel is like, he can't say much because he doesn't have his humanity anymore. He literally lost it so long, and it's been it's a long time.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be hard to you know get his humanity back. Obviously, we're starting to see that with him and Ellie on his journey, but obviously, it's going to take a while until he gets that back in
Yeah.
order to
If he
actually
even
be
does,
human.
man. If he even does, right? Like, I mean, we're not
Yeah.
going to talk about it here, but like, that's definitely one of the questions that the game leaves you with by the end. But yeah, so we get another brief moment with Kathleen after this, right? And where that's it. This is very quick little character building moment. Melanie Linsky is a hell of an actress, dude. Like, she has like 5 scenes in this entire show, and each one of them like tells a whole fucking story about Kathleen, right? Like, because we see her, she's in her childhood room that she shared with her brother, who is now dead, and she talks about how his brother was this beautiful person, who had all this love and all this empathy and all this kindness in him, and she feels like she has none of that. And again, like, which is it's very interesting that they place that scene, which is an exploration of like Joel and Sam's like humanity, right? Like how it exists and all that. And then we um cut to Kathleen, who was completely unambiguous about it. She says, I was never that good of a person. I was never that I was never that human, right? Like
Mhm.
I never had that within me and shit. And in that scene, right? Like that just like those 5 minutes that I spent, or like those 5 minutes that I spent in that scene with Kathleen was way more effective than the 12 hours that I spent with Abby. In The Last of Us Part Two. All
Yeah.
right, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of time, a little ahead of myself here. But yeah, I really felt like, man, in those 5 minutes, like I still here's the thing. I understood her better as a person, and I felt and I felt empathy for her. I felt bad for her. But also like the complete commitment, her like determination to get Henry at any means necessary, her lack of remorse over all the people she killed. Like I was legitimately even more afraid of her when all she did was sit in front of her like bunk bed. Like, dude, what the fuck? That's
Yeah.
subtlety.
Yeah, it's definitely that, and also just the way she switches her emotions and her state of like going from like sentimental and like emotional and vulnerable back to just all right, let's go get this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly the type of like character she was, and she did a really good job of doing that, like switching from one mood to another, you know.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
don't
was good.
I don't know if you've seen her other show, Yellow Jackets. The second season is coming back, but like, yeah, she's really fucking good in that show too. If you like her in this and you haven't seen Yellow Jackets, go check out Yellow Jackets. The first season's on Showtime. So then we get another big subverting expectation moment for the gamers, right? Because the tunnel sequence is one of the most intense sequences in the entire game, right? Like because you're in this like dark ass environment, you can't tell where they're coming from you. They're just like popping up out of the shadows and shit. And in the show, we just cut past it.
Hmm.
We just cut straight to them getting out of the tunnels, being like, "We're on the other side."
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and that goes again with suburban expectations, but also actually just keeping the whole rhythm of we're safe. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? They kept that rhythm for a good while, and you're like, wait, like I think it's actually gonna be. I think they're actually gonna make it.
Yeah,
I think they're all gonna make it.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
feel 100%, dude. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, it's a, yeah, just that, and just like the way they did it was so good because it's like you thought it would happen after the guy said, "Yeah, look, we're fine," and then 2 minutes later it'll be like, "Oh shit, here comes the
Well,
clickers."
well, yeah. Let's yeah. Let's talk about that scene because woo, yeah, what a fucking doozy of an action set piece that was. But yeah, it starts off, like a good action set piece escalates, right? Like every moment just makes the situation more and more tense. And yeah, you start off with like this feeling of safety, like Sam, Henry, Joel, and Ellie make it out of the tunnels. They're out in the street and like they're walking around quietly. But the second that Henry says something out loud, I was like, oh fuck, they're fucked now.
Yeah.
They're fucked. And like, dude, and it's so, and I think anybody who watches any good amount of TV knew that like the second that he spoke, their time was limited. But like also, of course, Henry would speak right now. Of course, Henry would think about it. He spent his entire life, as Joel said earlier in the episode, like the Kansas City Fedra people were known as horrible monsters, the worst of the worst, right? They were raping, killing, torturing people left and right. So yeah, if you're Henry and you're Sam and you grew up watching that and you're finally out, I get it. I get why Henry would fucking let his guard down and finally feel good about himself, even though it was a stupid fucking thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When he said it, I was like, yeah, that's the thing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know.
No, and as soon as that happened, like I was again like, oh shit, like hands over my head, like, oh no. And sure enough, the bullets start flying, and we get kind of like a fun reverse of the sniper sequence at the end of the Bill mission in the first game.
Yeah, they switch it up. So instead of the sniper sequence in the town, it's in Kansas City.
Right. Yeah. And not just that, but like it's Joel shooting the snipers for Ellie and not Ellie shooting out the zombies for Joel, you know? So we got to experience that from the other perspective and shit. I did remember that right. Am I correct? It was Ellie who was
Yeah, I remember. I think Joel was the one who went up to go take out the sniper,
yeah.
and Ellie. The difference is that Ellie wasn't shooting.
Yeah. Okay.
She was
That was
just. They were just all hiding. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Right. So, anyways, we see that there's a sniper in one of the houses, and we see Joel, and like in a very interesting little small moment where Joel says, "Ellie, I'm gonna leave you here with Sam and Henry while I flank the shooter who can't shoot straight and all this shit." Right. Like Joel clearly has been in this situation, but we see for the first time Ellie be like afraid, like not just afraid for her life, but afraid of losing a sense of safety with Joel. And and I thought it was interesting because at some point Joel just says, "Do you trust me?" And Ellie doesn't know what to say. You know, like I really like that moment, man. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I that was a very like, you know, touching scene because it's like it shows like Ellie, she comes off as like a badass, or she comes off as like this arrogant, person in shows like, oh, I have no fear, I have no, vulnerability. And then like at that moment she showed her vulnerability and her fear, because she realized that this one person that's protecting me and is taking care of me, protecting me, is leaving me, by himself,
Yeah.
and I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna do, that type of way, and I like that it shows her vulnerable side for
Yeah.
sure. Like she's really afraid.
Yeah, and what's really interesting to me too is that like if you think about it, Ellie is the protector in that situation. Until she reunites with Joel, she is in charge of Sam and Henry because Sam and Henry don't know what the fuck they're doing and their guns aren't even like loaded. You know? So Ellie finds herself like even if she is afraid, she can't show it because she has to like try and keep Sam and Henry from doing something stupid. You know, so she puts on her bravest face. Meanwhile, Joel flanks the enemy, is able to catch up, and and yeah, as he shoots him, like I said, every great action scene escalates and escalates and escalates, right? So he takes out the sniper, and for a second, us, the audience, are like, whew, that was close. And then we hear the radio, and it's Kathleen, and she's heading over. And Joel shouts, run, but it's too late because as soon as he shouts, run, the engines are getting closer. And all of a sudden, all the storylines converge, and Joel, Ellie, Sam, Henry are reunited with Kathleen. And there's so many fucking cars. Well, actually, first of all, let's talk about the car chase, right? Like the initial chase where they're running away from the truck that has the plow in front of it, plowing through all these cars. Joel and Ellie are shooting. Finally, they shoot the driver, and it crashes into the fucking house, and the fucking house explodes. And dude, that's when I fucking knew the clickers were coming.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
just a matter of time.
yeah. But what's crazy is we didn't know how.
No, yeah. And that was a surprise because in the last week's episode, we saw that sequence where they're walking through the warehouse where they think Sam and Henry are at, and you see that like that collapsed floor, you
Hmm.
know. And then in this episode, we find out that like yeah, they ran all the clickers underground and shit. And then you again safety, right? It's fucking with your sense of safety because throughout the episode, they're like, oh okay, so yeah, the tunnels are clear. But then in the back of your head, you're thinking about that fucking that the sunken fucking floor, and all of a sudden it all just comes together because just because eventually, essentially, uh Kathleen has everybody pinned down. There's so many fucking cars out there. There's so many lights. There's no way that they can get away. But then the car starts moving and it starts sinking. And actually, before we go to that, right? Before we actually go to that moment, another brief but super fucking important piece of dialogue from Kathleen, who is literally fucking trying to get Henry to come out and says, Henry, maybe Sam was supposed to die. Kids die all the fucking time. Is one little kid literally fucking worth risking your life for? And fucking Joel is listening to this up in the tower, trying to keep from getting shot. And I really love that they cut back to him because, yeah, that's Joel is very much in the same situation of Henry, where he's taking a child to safety essentially, and Joel is starting to realize, and I think Joel in his mind, as he's hearing Kathleen say this, is thinking about Ellie and being like, yes, she is worth risking my life for the exact same reason that Sam is, or that like Sam is worth Henry risking his life for. And I thought that was a very, again, quiet, no dialogue, not even like, show, yeah, like quiet fucking subtle scene. What did you think about that moment?
Yeah, I agree. It was like definitely that type of scene where um Joel finally realizes that you know, he has to protect Ellie, you know, because she's, you know, just like his daughter, you know, she was a kid, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Ellie same way, you know, and you know you can tell he sees her that way, but he just doesn't want to, you know, go full on, you know, and admit it or just fully realize it. But when Henry is taking a stand and saying leave Sam alone, and then you know the Catherine Kathleen, I think her name, she, you know, spills like, you know, what you think it's worth his life? Are you really gonna risk his life? And then it shows like Joel, and you can tell like that now he realizes, oh yeah, that's right. You know, it is. You know, like you were saying, like it
Yeah,
is worth a life because I used to have that. I used to have that type of
And Henry
situation.
still does. And Henry still
Yeah,
does. That's the thing. Henry still has his humanity. Henry has not done the evil things that Joel has, right? So not only is Joel, I think Joel deeply respects and almost like envies Henry, right? The fact that he does still feel guilty for killing one person as opposed to all the shit Joel has done. So not just hearing her say that, but like hearing that Henry like is essentially like surrendered and is literally like literally allowing himself to die just for the sake that it may possibly help Sam and Henry escape, but probably not. Let's face it, like had these things played differently, as soon as Henry died, she would have shot Sam, Ellie, and Joel without even fucking thinking twice about it. And Henry knows that too. But Henry does the human and stupid thing, and tries to be a hero because for all you know, it could fucking work. And
yeah,
I thought careless, stupid, yes, but goddamn, like the amount of like love that it takes for someone to be that purposefully like in danger and dumb, and all for empathy. Like I would imagine Joel finding that inspiring and finding like his humanity coming back a little bit.
yeah. It definitely shows like because like you said, yeah. What's his name? Henry has his humanity still, and Joel doesn't. But as Joel progresses with Henry and Sam and seeing Henry's humanity, I think Joel's starting to realize humanity is something that is worth grasping onto and not having it. You know, that's what I see when I'm watching Joel throughout this episode is his interactions with Henry, and but especially towards the end, the final act. You can tell Joel is fully realizing that humanity is worth saving.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, man. It was a again subtle, quiet, powerful moment though, and it's great we had that because shit's about to go off the fucking chain. as, as fucking Henry is about to fucking die, the truck that exploded is starting to sink into the ground, and there's a hole opening up in the ground, just like there was something opening up under that warehouse in previous episode. And sure enough, after what 2 episodes without seeing a single fucking clicker, we get a fucking huge fucking gang of clickers and a goddamn bloater at the fucking
And
end,
a
man.
bloater.
What did you think about this sequence, dude?
Dude, I didn't expect that to happen. I was just like, okay, maybe, okay, I have a feeling the clickers are coming, but I didn't expect them to come out of the ground. And on top of that, I didn't
On
expect
fire.
yeah. And I didn't expect the fucking bloater.
Yeah.
That's something that I blew my mind. I was just like, wait, really? And that's the thing about this show that does well. They subvert your expectations. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I love. So yeah, I love that scene. I love that whole scene and that final battle between the clickers and the resistance. And oh man, it was so pleasing to see the
Yeah.
clickers start killing these guys. And yeah.
And just like chaotic too, man, because
Yeah.
they come out and like and very quickly Ellie is separated from Sam and Henry. We don't even see Sam and Henry throughout most of this action sequence. What we do see is Joel sniping fucking clickers out of the way for Ellie. Until Ellie enters, and while all this is happening, there's just like crazy, awesome, like clicker action versus all these Fedra guys.
Yeah.
she eventually finds herself inside a truck, and a child, like a 7-year-old fucking clicker, pops into the sequence, and she's stuck in the car in it. It reminded me of the Lost World Jurassic Park, where Jeff Goldblum is stuck inside the car with the raptors like attacking him and shit. Like,
Yeah.
oh, dude, that was so intense for me.
Yeah, dude, it's a tense sequence. And like the thing is, like, we never. I don't think we've seen a young clicker.
No, we never.
I don't think we haven't. So that was an interesting new element they thrown in there too. Especially like I found it a little creepy the way she was going up towards Ellie as
Yeah,
well. Just the way she was moving and shit. It's just, man, clickers are scary, man.
and you
Clickers
know
are
what?
scary as fuck.
And the fact that it's a kid just proves Kathleen right. Kids die all the time in this world, and a
Yeah.
lot of them end up turning into clickers, unfortunately. But yeah, no, you're right, dude. Because like she doesn't just like hop into the fucking car. She like I don't know, Cirque du Soleil's her way in there. Like her body is all weirdly kind of like The Ring, like Japanese horror when they contort
Yeah.
their bodies in weird ways and shit like that. Very brief, but also incredibly effective. And it's around this time that the bloater comes out and raises the stake. Well, again, dude, expertly crafted. Like the stakes just keep raising because just when you thought like it couldn't get any worse, here comes the bloater, and the bloater was just like pure fucking fan service for me, dude. Like I was just like, fuck.
Yeah, especially when he was killing people too. The way the bloaters kill people in the games, very
Yeah,
yeah, boom, ripping their jaw in half. Just
yeah.
ugh.
I like how in the background he literally ripped just like in the game. Like if you die to the bloater, that's one of the animations that play out. It
Yeah,
just grabs you and like, dude, total fan service, man. I tell you.
yeah. It was awesome. It was, fan service all around, but also just at the same time it was a tense like sequence because everyone's at risk. Because we got the clickers and the bloater, and those I feel like those are worse than the damn resistance in my
Yes.
opinion. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, but the only thing that kind of like that I didn't like was that like the bloater wasn't like ripping off like spores and throwing it at the like it does in the game, right? Like it rips off the spores and it throws it at you. But I
yeah,
noticed that it didn't do that, which was kind of disappointing. But I think that's just me being a fanboy, because yeah, otherwise the fucking bloater was great.
yeah.
It was awesome seeing one, dude. I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and also it did what it had still like in the games. It did like stay true to the strength of the bloater, like with the way he kills people and stuff. Like I said, their jaw ripping and all that. That was a cool like fan service touch to it. That's true to the bloater. I do wish I'd seen the throwing the spores and all that. Um, the what you call it? Yeah, I would like to see them throw the spores, but I don't know, maybe budget reasons. I don't know. Uh, but I looked up the different types of bloaters. There's like a bloater that I think has those types of spores they throw, and then the other ones don't.
Uh-huh.
I think
Oh,
there's two
that's true, huh?
separate.
Yeah, at the end
Yeah,
of those two, like basically like the closest thing. Well, not the final combat sequence, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. The part in the tunnels. Isn't it so weird? Like The Last of Us is such a like memorable game. I played it like 3 times over the past like 10 years at most, and I still remember like everything so perfectly, man. That's how you know it's a good story.
yeah,
Yeah, so then we get the sequence where very brief sequence where Ellie has to save Sam and Henry from a bunch of clickers under a truck. And it's also Joel helping her out with the sniper, and after that they all reunite. And just as they're about to escape, Kathleen shows up one last time,
for
and
one final scare.
for one final scare. And essentially what we get is that same little zombie girl that almost killed Ellie jumps on Kathleen, who the last time we saw her, by the way, the last time we saw her was commenting that she never had the humanity, even as a little girl, right? The irony here that she was
That's what I
killed
was
by.
gonna say.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, no, I was gonna say like it's ironic, isn't it? Because it's like just like you're saying, she doesn't understand, and at the same time, a couple minutes earlier, she say, "Yeah, kids are all the time," you
Yeah.
know, and like, why do you care? And then it's kicks, Karma kicks her in the ass and throws a kid in the mix, and that the kid ends up killing her.
Yeah, and it's not just like karma, right? It's like
Yeah,
thematically, it's like thematic irony and shit. Because
yeah,
like, yeah, throughout in that sequence, you throughout the entire episode, we see that she's like lost her humanity, right? Just like everyone else in the world, but especially her, you know, right or wrong, you know, whether she's justified or not, her humanity is gone. Just like a zombie, just like a clicker has no humanity, right? The last time we see her is in her childhood bedroom, where she's lamenting the fact that she never had the humanity that her brother had, that it was never there, even when she was a little girl. And after, yeah, like you said, dude, after she said like kids die all the time, a little monster girl who has lost her humanity kills her. And that's just like good. That's just good fucking writing, baby.
hmm
That's how you fucking write, dude. I love that.
yeah. The writing so far in this series is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant writing. What it does, what the writers do here is they captured the brilliance writing of the original and they added more brilliance writing on top of that. So
Yeah.
it's like you got the got the pie, the whatever it is, apple pie. If you love apple pie, it's so good, it's so tasty, you love it. But let's just add a little like cherry on the top. Let's add some cream on it. That
Yeah.
type of shit. You know what I'm saying? That's what they did here. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what they
they
did.
yeah.
No, yeah, no, 100%, man. No, I really, I really liked because again, Kathleen's not in the original game, but I really like how they took her, barely had her in any scenes, right? Like what, like 6 scenes at the most throughout the entire series, and
Yeah.
they just gave her this like super like clever, kind of mean, you know, meaningful little arc within all that, which I thought was fucking fantastic in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It was really good.
Yeah, so finally, after all that, Kansas they finally leave Kansas City. And I could be wrong, but it doesn't play out like this in the game, right? Like in the game, they escape, and that night, they find out that Sam is infected and kill him, right? Or is it also the next morning?
I think it was like so I actually noticed it too. Like at night in the game, they I think they do escape and they go to like a nearby apartment or house or whatever,
Mhm.
and everything's fine at night. And then all of a sudden in the morning,
Right.
it just turns out that uh, Sam was a zombie because he
Okay.
starts attacking her, Ellie because Joel hears screaming from the bed and then he goes. Of course, we all know how that plays out. Sam kills. Not Sam. Henry kills Sam, and
Henry.
then Henry
Henry
blows
kills
his
him.
brains out. But the difference in the show here is that um, you actually the Ellie finds out at night that Sam is affected because Sam shows her the bite. So we get that scene where he reveals it to Ellie, but she doesn't tell anybody else.
Mhm.
So that, and in the morning we get to see Ellie's perspective.
Yeah.
Um, rather than Joel's perspective at first in the game. So in the show, we see her wake up and then goes to Sam, and then Sam the zombie attacks her, and then we cut to Joel hearing the screams, and then that's when we get that whole scene that plays out pretty much the same. But
Right.
it was still effective.
Yeah.
I think it was still effective.
Right. Yeah. And one thing that is sort of like sad to think about, right? Especially considering how the episode ends with like Ellie, you know, Sam and Ellie and Joel burying them, but then Ellie being the first one to leave and accept, you know, what happened. Because you know she tries to save, she try, you know, in her kid like way, thinking if I rub my blood on the bite, you know, everything will be okay, and all that shit. But um, yeah, it doesn't work out like that. And what I think is interesting is that throughout this entire episode, Ellie is a kid again. She's acting like a kid. You know, she's like a big sister with a little brother, and
Yeah.
she's playing, she's like, you know, having all these like cool moments, like they're bonding and shit like that. But the thing is, as soon as Sam turns, it's over. He, you know, like and what was sad about Henry was that like he everybody in this world is so trained to look at the infected as instantly inhuman that Henry doesn't even like realize that he shot Sam until like moments after, and that doesn't play out in the game. In the game, he shoots him and then boom, like right there. But I really enjoyed how like we got to spend a little bit of like we got to see Henry come to the realization of what just happened and what he just did. And I think it really just the way they played it in the show today was just so much more intense, so much more scarier, and just ultimately like really just like yeah, I don't know, dude, really what just made it more sad at the end.
Yeah, I think it was more effective here because like we've been saying, like um even I noticed like when he shot him, I feel like it was one of those moments when it's like one of those like fight or flight situations that like you see that in Henry. He had a fight or flight situation. I think he realized before he shoots Henry or Sam that Sam is attacking Ellie and Sam is infected,
Yeah.
right? So he shoots Sam knowingly that Sam is affected and he was attacking Ellie and possibly gonna infect Ellie and kill Ellie. And then moments right after, he's like, "Wait, did I just do that? Did I?" Because
What
if
I
it's
just
like
do.
he has like it's like he was daydreaming at first, and then finally he wakes up and he's like, "Oh shit! Like what happened?" And then he realizes he shot
His
Sam.
little yeah, yeah. Heartbreak. Yeah, and it was fucking hard to watch, dude. And God, I really, really like even to the point, dude. Even to the point that like when Ellie rubbed her blood on his bite, I was like, God, I hope that works. Like I know that would completely destroy the entire storyline, but like in my head, I was like, please, fucking work. I don't want to see this little kid die, man. But yeah, like the world of The Last of Us is a cruel and unforgiving place, and the show and the game explore that, and yeah, we little Sam dies, and Henry, who has only ever really done one bad thing in his life, like instantly sees himself as completely as inhuman. Or maybe he just can't live without his little brother, man. Like, unlike Joel, like unlike Joel, he couldn't think of anything else to live for, and I don't know, man. Like just wow. I thought again. I hate to say it because it is a really well done like thing in the game, but in the show, like I really feel they pulled that whole sequence off way better, in my opinion, emotionally speaking.
Yeah, I agree. It was more better here because I think it's also because they expand a little more on the Sam and Henry story, but also at the same time doing what they were doing before, they're adding and changing little elements in that part of the story that made it more interesting and more a little different. So I think more of the people who played the games aren't expecting certain things to happen in the show, and that way, they'll even be more engaged and more connected and more interested in the characters like Henry and Sam. I think that they did a really good job at that,
I agree.
especially towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah. No, no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, if you want to continue on.
Oh no, no, I was just saying, especially towards the end, when we get that moment.
Yeah, and yeah, and then at the very end, they bury Sam and Henry, and Ellie leaves his little etch a sketch thing. And like when she was like buried, like I noticed, like I was, I saw it throughout the episode, but it wasn't until they buried Henry or Sam and Henry, and she leaves the thing that says "I'm sorry" on it. I like it hit me, dude. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Like fuck, that little kid and his brother had to make sure over the years after all this time that he never lost that. Like I don't know, man. Like there's just something poetic about that. That like it's so tattered and like clearly the original toy broke a long time ago, so they had to like reconfigure like a version of it, and like considering the fact that Sam loved to, I don't know, man. Like fuck, they did such a good job with that because he likes to draw. He loves to draw, right? And that like he got that thing when he was a kid, and you knew that little Sam was drawing on that thing his entire life. and that's where it all started. I don't know, man. Like, fuck, dude. God damn, this episode really fucking nailed it, man. It really fucking nailed it, in my opinion. And like, just that little brief little thing, dude. Like, it just carried so much weight and so much meaning, and it was doing it throughout the entire episode. But it wasn't until I saw it laying on the grave, and I was like, man, that's this kid's headstone. Like, that's, this thing that he not only like needed to, like, not just to like communicate, but to express himself, right? Not just to talk, but to draw his little, the superhero that he wanted to be. Like, the first time he drew Super Sam, it was on that fucking thing. Like, god damn, dude. Like, I'm just like, right now, like, just really starting to think about like the weight of that. And that's just good writing, dude. That's just really fucking good
Yeah,
writing, you know?
yeah, it's really good writing, and just like, you know, um, just proving that, the show is just awesome, just by the way they're doing it. And you know how people are always saying, oh, they can't do the video game adaptations because they suck, right?
Yeah.
And this is holy proof that you can do it and do it right.
Yeah.
And this, you can do it with great writing, and I mean, especially in the original, it was great writing in the original. Well, what they did was they took that great writing, like I said, they took that great writing and they mixed it with another layer of great writing and made it
Mhm.
even better,
Yeah.
which I love. So, and yeah, like you said, like how, we see that drawing pen from the start, and then towards the end it comes back later towards the end, and it comes full circle, with Henry, or specifically with Sam, because that's what he uses to talk and express himself.
Yeah. No, definitely, dude. I really just, I was amazed by this episode. Like, I mean, the Frank episode, like every episode has just been a fucking banger, but like this is the one, because it played so much with my expectations, because like it had so much original ideas with it, man. I think this is the one that hits me. It hit me even harder than episode 3, to be honest, because episode 3 at least had like a bittersweet ending. This is just sad. This is just a sad ending. and
Yeah,
and not just that, but like, I think the show was able to extract so much more emotion and meaning and just depth out of this sequence than the game did. And I think the game did it fantastically to begin with, you know?
yeah, I agree. It's man, it's just amazing, what they're able to accomplish with the writing here.
Yeah.
um and to show like that video game movies, or video game adaptations on screen, it's possible.
It's possible.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, guys, that is gonna be our the conclusion of our spoiler free section. By spoiler, we mean spoiler for the potential future of the show, and the game series overall. So I'm gonna put this ticker up now. So yeah, Dom, let's talk about the show in relation to the games, both of them. Dude, this was very Last of Us 2. This felt like something out of the Last of Us Part 2 to me, you know?
Yeah, me too. Because mainly the Catherine part. Because if she felt a little bit like Abby in a way, in my
Yes.
opinion. Yeah, but I think they did a better job here than they did in part two.
Oh
I
yeah.
think what yeah, I think what they did was they took that character, of Abby and her personality, and also her motivation, determination, and they put it into Catherine, a new character they created, and they made it more better because
I'm
they
sorry, you
did
cut out a little
different things.
bit there. What would you say there? They cut Kathleen and what?
Oh, they put take Abby's character, right, and they put it back into Catherine, or Kathleen, my bad. And they what you call it, they made it more better when it comes to her motivation, her personality, and all that. It wasn't over the top. Well, yeah. Oh, we're still alive. Oh, he's just frozen. Okay,
Hey, man, my bad.
that's all good. Yeah, I see you now.
Yeah, yeah. My
Yeah,
bad. Yeah, what were you saying? So the last thing I caught was about Kathleen and
yeah,
yeah, how she. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. So like, what they did was they took the Abby character and made a new character with her. What? How do I say it? So like, Kathleen is Abby, but written better.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a good job writing Kathleen better than Abby because you can tell the similarities between Abby and her, but when it comes to the writing of her character, I think they did a better job when it comes to her um, motivation, but also her presence,
Yeah.
on screen, and just how she handles herself and uh, how her performance shows a little more um, lightness, not lightness, but like
Vulnerable.
goodness when it comes to acting.
Yeah. I don't know, man. See, I get that. I get that. Like it was Abby thing, but frankly, like she reminded me so much more of Ellie. In The Last of Us Part Two, because like frankly, just because I just think that Melanie Linsky looks more like Ellie in the second game for sure. But I think in general, one of the benefits that this show has, having both games to work with, right, as the bouncing off point, is that I feel like this show is actually doing a really good job of laying a lot of like seeds, right, like thematic seeds that will make what happens in the second game a lot more like easier to consume for viewers, right? Because like the first game is about love, you know, and the second game is about hatred and anger and revenge and stuff like that. And I frankly feel like it was jarring. It was just like it was jarring. It was sudden, in a way that didn't work. And I know it works for a lot of people. Like I know I'm in the minority here as far as not liking the way the second game turned out, but like for me, um, the fact that the two games are so diametrically opposed when it comes to its like themes and stuff like that, just really didn't let the second game like transition well. But I feel like in the show, you see like the like I said, the seeds, like the little hints of what's to come with the storyline in part two. I mean, do you feel that in other places besides just like Kathleen, or is it just me?
No, I do see it different places. Like the guy she's working with a lot
Mm-hmm.
in the show, like her right hand man,
Yeah,
reminds me of
Maddie.
yeah, Manny, and also just the other characters. Two of them, I'm mistaken. Mainly her resistant army.
Yeah,
Like it reminds me of the what it was Abby's called, like the wolf or whatever.
yeah.
Her
The WF, the Washington Liberation Federation, or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of that too. So I can see
yeah.
similarities to that, and I think they did a really good job here. So I have confidence that in the second season or part two that they're gonna do a better job than they did in the game.
Did
Hopefully.
you did you did you catch the other foreshadowing of The Last of Us Part Two? The map. They
Oh, the
drew out the
map.
map. It's like just like Ellie draws out the map to Seattle.
Oh yeah, there was like it was like foreshadowing, but also just a little nod, right, to part
Yeah,
two as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, definitely, dude. No, I really, especially these last two episodes, have definitely felt like not maybe like a trial run is like the wrong word, but like it's definitely setting up the thematic framework for what Ellie goes through, and Abby as well in part two and stuff like that. But yeah, man, like um yeah, I think we kind of like touched upon over like the real major differences here and similarities and stuff like that. But I just think overall, like I like as someone who didn't like the second game, right? Because of just how jarring it is, and like it's pedantry and stuff like that. Like to me, it's actually kind of getting me excited to go through the story of the second game again, because I think this show is doing a lot more work to make that a more what's the word I'm looking for here? Um Smooth, like a smoother transition into the sort of like the darkness of the second game, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I know. I enjoyed the second game. I didn't think it was the best. I think it was the weakest of the Last of Us games. Obviously, we know there's two, but the part two is not the best. But I still enjoyed it for what it was, um, gameplay wise and story wise. I didn't mind it as much.
Yeah.
I always compare the Last of Us Part Two as Predator Two, and Last was One is Predator One. So it's like the first
Yeah.
one is a
Yeah.
masterpiece. It's the best in the franchise, and the second one is a good sequel, but it's not the best one. It's not better than the original. It's just good, and it's fun. I guess you can say when it comes to the gameplay aspect of it, of course. But the story's fine. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think even the biggest fans of The Last of Us Part Two could admit that it's not as good of a story as the first one. You know,
Yeah,
I,
no,
at
I
least,
agree. Yeah,
yeah.
I
I mean,
agree.
of all the defenses I've heard of the second game, I've never heard anybody say they liked it more than the first one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, yeah, me too. I don't like it as much as the first one. I still enjoyed the game though. I think it's a good game. I just don't think it's the best in the franchise.
Low key, dude, it kind of makes me want to play. Here's the thing: watching this kind of makes me want to play the second game again. But then I think about the second game and like how it's just 30 hours of like horrible depression, you know? Like, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't listen to Midwest emo no more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else you want to add, or you want to go to wrap things up?
Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, I would like to see my predictions for the next one. I would like to see more of a continuation after that part of the game in The Last of Us One, after the Henry and Sam. We go on to the next one, which I believe is I won't say it, but hopefully they'll go to the very next part after that sequence in the game.
Yeah, I don't want to speak too much on next week's episode because like I whatever, like it's a trailer, it's a minute long, everybody can go see it. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna be. I don't think there's going to be much of a transition. I wouldn't be surprised if the next episode we start off with either a flashback with Tommy or with them meeting with me, like getting like outside of Tommy's settlement. You know, that's what I think the
Mhm.
next episode is going.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
That's all I have to add to it.
yeah. No. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's gonna be it for today's stream, everyone. Dom, is there anything you want to plug while we're still here?
Yeah, sure. I have a YouTube channel. It goes by the name of Dominic St. Clair Studios. It's on YouTube. I do short films and fan films on there. I'm currently working on a fan film right now. It's a Halloween fan film. If you're a Michael Myers fan or a
Mhm.
Halloween fan in general, then you're gonna enjoy the fan film because it's Michael Myers. But yeah,
Nope.
that's what I do on my channel, and that's my channel name. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys are on the Pop Counterculture channel right now. If you haven't hit like and subscribe, make sure you do. Because on top of doing these fun live streams, I do a bunch of video essays. I just did an essay on Chuck Reagan and the revival tour, which is this really like little known but like very impactful like 5 years where Chuck Reagan, who was in this like famous like heavy punk band, like hardcore band from the 90s, decides to do country folk music and does like this incredible. First of all, like he starts putting out all these critically acclaimed and loved like country folk albums, and then all his friends also like see what he's doing, and they start putting out amazing music, and then they start putting this unique tour that no one's ever done in punk rock before, and everybody that goes to see it like is like amazed by it and like their mind is blown by it, but it only lasts for 5 years and it never comes back again. And yeah, I have the story of that on my on my channel. I also do These People Hate Cinema, which is an exploration of right-wing media grifters like Nerd Roddick, Critical Drinker, Eric July, all these conservatives who push their politics through media discussion. And yeah, and I also do this. So make sure you hit like and subscribe on my channel if you haven't already. Comment below what you thought of the episode, if anything you want us to bring up for the next one, or yeah, anything like that. Leave it below. Until then, I've been Ed.
And I'm Dominic.
And that's gonna be the end of today's episode. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll catch you guys next Sunday.
All right. See you guys next Sunday.
Later.